Woo! Ooh, this is a big classroom. I get nervous real easy, so I talk fast. I get kind of emotional, so get ready for this. It's always funny when people introduce me as a teacher, because there's always a little bit of awkwardness with people, like, oh, what do you do? I'm a teacher. And they always have the same kind of three weird responses. The first one is always, really? And the reason why I attribute that, I've experienced this daily, because like I'll be at Target and I'll be throwing some socks and some Cheetos, in a cart, and I'll be strolling along and I'll run into a student and they'll see me and they freak out. They're like, what are you doing outside of school? Why do you got socks and Fritos? And I'm just like, whatever. So I'll get my stuff and I'll check out and I'll go. And no joke, the next day with the Twitter and the chats and like that, I'll be walking through the hallways. So they'll be like, oh, what's up? You got some socks? I'm like, what? You eat all those Fritos? They're all pumped up and I'm like, what? See, I think adults are almost the same way. Like, wait, teachers still exist outside the building? So they're like, really? And then they kind of make up ground. They'll be like, oh, wow, that's great. And I know sarcasm, so I know they don't really mean that. They're like, that's great. Because they're still weirded out. And then they follow, oh, wow, that's great, because they'll always same sentence teacher, and teachers know that. Man, I couldn't do that. And I'm good if it's there. I'm real good. I'm like, okay, let's have that awkward pause and just move. But once in a while, someone says the next sentence, it kills me. Man, I don't know how you do it, because kids these days. And I am the wrong teacher to say that too. Because I believe in the next generation. I've been teaching for 20 years. And I can honestly say that I have worked with some of the greatest kids on the planet. And I don't believe that about my kids. I know that's all kids, but I'm kind of selfish, so I'm going to talk about my kids. So I do believe that. So when they say that, they've opened up a whole can. So here's what ends up happening. I say, oh, kids these days. Because I'm pretty sure it's not kids these days that are the problem, because kids these days did not create a national debt that's in the trillions of dollars. And kids these days haven't started in trying to end wars. And kids these days aren't out there destroying the environment. And kids these days haven't created the political, the social, and the economic injustice. Because I'm pretty sure that's adults these days. So when you're going to talk about kids these days, maybe you should show them a little respect, because they're the ones who are inheriting our mess. So I really think we need to start re-looking at how we, that's why I'm here. I really think we need to relook at how we talk about kids these days. And that's my ultimate goal. Like he said, I'm all about the impossible. And one of the impossible things that click, there we go. One of the things that I do is because I've been in teaching for 20 years, I've seen all kinds of reforms come and go. And here's the truth. They all come from the ivory towers, and they all try to filter their ways down, and they always try to end up to the kids, but they don't quite make it there. And I'll tell you the truth, often when they do make it there, it's making it worse for those kids, not better. Because we're only serving certain groups of kids, and we all know that because we've all been there. But what I'm trying to do is step outside the classroom, outside of what the typical curriculum is, and start a new curriculum, and I call it GO. And what I try to do is inspire and train the next generation of leaders, because the world is a mess, and we need people who can step into these roles and say, it can be different. It's got to be different. And so this is what I'm going to try to sell to you today, is that we can make it different. See, why am I crazy? Because I can't work at Clicker. Oh, there we go. My story starts with a pair of pants. And anybody who's been in the 80s knows parachute pants, and they were sweet, but thank God they never came back. Because parachute pants were made of some space-age material, and then they would have these zippers on the sides, and they hugged up in all the wrong places. But when I was in 7th grade in junior high, I was rocking me some parachute pants. And I still remember leaving Mrs. Forbush's English class, and I was walking down the hall, and I was swoosh, swoosh, because that's what they would do. Swoosh, like a fire was going to start. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. And I still remember the day and the time and the space where Kelly, behind me, goes, hey, Aaron, nice pants. I was like, all right. So I look over my shoulder, give Kelly the eye, and I realized Kelly wasn't complimenting me. Kelly was looking at me with her 6 friends being like, loser. So I looked back forward like I didn't catch her, and I just went on. But I'll tell you what happened inside of me. And I am 44 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I died. Because then you're walking down middle school, junior high, and every kid is now looking at your pants like you're some type of loser. And all I wanted to do was disappear. I wanted to die. I wanted to just go invisible. And invisible is what I did. Through the rest of junior high, through the rest of high school, I just disappeared. No one could see me. I got the grades that nobody could see. Get a B. Don't get an A or a C, because a C they might call home. But B, they're not going to say anything. You know? Don't do too well on the ACT, don't pour, because I don't want any recognition at any type of assembly. Just disappear. So I did everything. Don't misbehave, but don't say anything. Just disappear. I even knew where to sit in the classroom, middle to the side, because the teachers watch the front, they watch the back, they watch the middle, but they never see you on the side. I disappeared. I graduated with 450 kids. 25 years later, I am friends with 0 of them. We just had a 25th year reunion. I didn't go because I'm invisible. In all ironies, I became a teacher. And when I stood in front of my class, I noticed I had a superpower. I could see the invisible kid. And as I taught, I became more and more passionate that it was not okay that kids became invisible, because they have value and they have purpose. So I tried to see them, and I realized that there are 2 types of invisible kids, and every kid fits into this category. There's one that is like me, trying to disappear. Don't see me. You know, hey, anyone got a question? Nope, don't see me. And then there's the other type of kid that is like, just see me, look at me, I'm crazy, I'm funny, I'm wild, I got so wasted last night. They want to be seen. They want to be seen. And the funny thing is they're wearing a mask, because the reality is what they really are going through, what their real experience is invisible. So they just put on an act because they don't want anybody to see what their real experiences are. And their experiences are tough. Anybody knows kids? Knows they got it tough today. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with a little bit of test. Please click. And this is a test. Now, if you've seen this test before, do not respond to it. But if you haven't seen it, watch, because something amazing is about to happen. See, this is how you see kids, and this is how you see education, because you've only ever seen it one way. You've all gone through high school. I was in high school 100 years ago, and it's exactly how it is today. I've taught for 20 years. It's the same way, because everything's been the same way. We expect it to be the same way, because, you know, it's a pattern. It starts in September, ends in June. We get it. There's going to be tests when we're in 11th grade, all that stuff. But here's the problem. There's more there. There's something we're missing. And if you look and you begin to see it, it becomes apparent. And today, that's my goal, is to make it apparent. It's a cow. You see it? Always the same reaction. The cow. I didn't see the cow. That cow is looking at you. There's its eyes, there's its nose, it's looking straight at you. And today, this is my goal, for you to see the cow that is education. What is it? What should it be? What are students and what should it be? I got they're like, oh! Because here's the thing that will happen with this. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And this is how you are going to see kids today. So here we go. I will tell you this. If you couldn't tell already, I love my kids. I've got 20 of my students back here from Avondale High School. They represent. It is their homecoming today. It is the Friday pep assembly day. But instead of being there, they've decided to come here because they want to be better, they want to be bigger, they want to be able to do more. These kids are dedicated, and I love them, and I love all those kids that are still back there that I get to serve. But I'm going to tell you this. I do have some favorites. One of my favorites is this little nugget right here. I know, right? He is 9 years old. His name is Christian. He's in the 4th grade, and he hates school. What makes it worse is he's my son. So I'm a high school teacher. I've got a kid who hates school. And you know, I'm a teacher. I'm like, dude, you got recess, you get gym, you get chocolate milk. You got a teacher who sees you all day and loves you. You get to sit on cushy chairs. This is the best time. No, I hate school. True story. This morning he came down and gives me a hug. He's all sleeping. Gives me a hug, and I'm like, hey, what's up, bud? Hey, I'm going to go talk about you today. He's like, oh. And I go, what do you want me to tell him? And he goes, tell him I'm cute. I said, okay. That's all you got? I said, okay, because I'm going to go talk about school and stuff like that. And he's like, do I got to go? I'm like, yes, you have to go to school. Well, you're not going. I said, I know. I go, you want me to tell him anything about school? He goes, yeah, tell him I don't like school. I'm like, ugh. But here's what it is. This is where we begin to see the cow. Why he doesn't like the school is sitting behind him there. It's called 5-minute math. About every minute or every night he comes home, he's got to do math, and he has to time himself. And for 5 minutes, he's got to race through 100 different problems. Ooh, that sounds like fun. So he has to race through. And then he's got to take those problems into the teacher, and they're going to say, oh, you got 40, but you got 32 right, da-da-da-da. And he's sitting in class, and every other kid is coming in with 70 done, 100 done. And he's starting to see where he fits. And he knows where he fits. He's not real good at math. So he starts to see himself differently as he's being compared. See, we see him cute and adorable, but what he sees is this. He sees himself as being pressured, as being challenged. Like, hurry up and get this right, because if you are going to be graded. You know what? My son, he's done this every year. When he gets his end report card, he looks the first thing to see is if he passed. How scary is that? He has to check to see if he passed because he knows other kids didn't. He doesn't want to be that kid that everybody knows can make it to the next grade. So operating education under fear, under fear. See, I used to use this next slide a lot, and I hilarious. Like, I'll look at this and I'm like, this is how we do education. Seriously, Louisiana puts us at their education plan. Race education. I got to get to second grade, right? I mean, we got to finish this line. And I always laugh because I'm going, little poor Jimmy back there with his backpack and his little bit, away from me. It's not okay. Like, I always thought it's funny. I started putting this PowerPoint together. What was really bad is now that kid, I see my son. That's who I see now. It's not funny anymore because I know he doesn't like going. And I know because he's mad, he feels like he's behind. But yet this is how politicians and this is how education see him. It's unacceptable. This way, I kind of know that education is this way because built 100 and some years ago on a productivity model. And 100 years ago, that made perfect sense, right? You leave high school and you work on the line. And in Flint and Detroit, we all understand that. And we also know that Flint and Detroit have changed a lot since then. But education hasn't. That we built an assembly line model. Even do, I know I'm in and out here, sorry. Even when we do our mission statements for schools, we'll say, hey, we're trying to make kids more productive members of society. That's what we want them to do, be producers. They're out there to get theirs, to make a product, to do one thing. No, times have changed. It hasn't. See, look at this picture for a second. I mean, we know that picture's old. We also know that those are the same classrooms of today. And, get a mic. Think I'll switch that one on? What? No, they move my a lot, So, thanks, Rob. When you look at this picture, I want you to think about the design. About how we design it. I mean, if the K car was still being built, nobody would be buying it. But yet we still do education the same way. We still educate kids. And here's the funny thing is, if education is built for kids, then how come it's not built for kids? So when we look at this, is this something that kids are gonna thrive in? I mean, this is not an environment. As an adult, I don't wanna sit in this environment. First of all, my older son has to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Then he's at school by 7. By 7:20, he's learning social studies. Really? You think he cares about the War of 1812 at 7:30 in the morning? No, he wants a Pop-Tart. He does not want to be learning social studies. So when we look at this right here, we built this around that. And then better yet, a kid who can't sit down for 15 minutes, we're gonna keep him sitting and quiet for an hour and then say, hey, we're gonna repeat this for 6-7 hours in a row. Good luck. An adult wouldn't do this, but yet we continue 100 years later to keep on expecting our kids to learn the same way. That's not okay. We've got to see more than this. Wonk. And it baffles me that cartoonists get it, but we do not. It really, truly baffles me that they'll see this and be like, okay, go ahead, climb the tree. This is how we're gonna make a test. Because the truth is that we do say everybody climb the tree. But the truth is we tell ourselves that we see kids differently, but we don't. Look, man, this is the system. You gotta take these classes at this time, at this age. You gotta achieve this much. You gotta take this test. You gotta go to college. Good luck, run. And the reality is we have kids who are artists. We have kids who are musicians. We have kids who are theatrical. We have kids who are tactile. We have kids with all different sorts of abilities, and never do we really let them explore that. Yeah, we might create a classroom here or there, but we don't really see their talents because they are all gonna end up taking the same test and being judged on it. So what I say is we've gotta kind of redefine education. So when I was looking up the definition of education, it's to impart knowledge and then get tested on it. But what I see differently with that is that the root word, actually, when they first started coming up with this idea that we should educate our youth, what they did is they wanted to build leaders. And in my book, that's a champion, someone who can fight for the cause of another. So when we look up here, what education is supposed to be? Root word, to lead out. And I'm telling you right now, no one's leading my kid out. Nobody are leading some of these kids out to see who they can be. We're allowing them to be invisible, but get through the system. That is not okay. I want to tell you about a square peg in a round hole, because that's how kids feel in school. I know, been there, I see it every day. In a class of 30, I've got 30 square pegs or different shaped pegs all trying to fit through the same hole. Yeah, some kids are good at it. There's true. Some kids have mastered the system, but there's a lot of people. The one I want to tell you about is a 14-year-old girl. She has a 9th grade education. She's not going to get any more education. She'll never go to college. How do we see that kid? We know how we see that kid. In our mind, we'll be like, they're still worthy, but they're not, are they? In our society, they're a dropout. They're a statistic. And they're gonna go on and hopefully they'll get a career. And she did. She ends up at 14 becoming a hairdresser. 14. And I interview her later and I say, so what do you think about your life? Like, what do you see? She goes, I just don't think I feel that I have much purpose because I wasn't educated. She would end up cutting hair for 50 years. 50 years on her feet, serving others, raising 3 boys and raising a husband, and then standing behind people all day long cutting their hair. People who are going through the best of times, proms and weddings, all their celebrations, birthdays, she would celebrate with them, making them look perfect for their perfect occasion, pouring into them. And when things got wrong, she stood behind them and she cut their hair when they found out they got cancer, when they got divorced, when someone in their family had died. Yeah, come on. You can stay with me. So, this is what I'm gonna ask you. My mom might not see herself as educated, but I see her as a leader. She is a champion, and she's been a champion for 50 years. She served people. And it's time. We see this. A lot of times people will ask me like, well, you're all talk. I said, okay, let me prove it to you. So I'm gonna introduce you to Rob, and I'm gonna let him talk. So go ahead, Rob, tell me your story.
Hi, I'm Rob. As Mr. Donaghy mentioned earlier, I'm one of his former students from Avondale High School, graduated 2 years ago, and now I go to my community college here in Flint. Go Bears.
Yeah.
But anyways, life ain't all sunshine and rainbows, as Rocky once said. And with me, that's very true. And I found that out at a really young age, at 3 years old, when I realized that I had Asperger's disorder, which is basically a high-functioning autism, but it comes with other little quirks like enhanced intelligence and all that fun works, and people might think it's fun, but then you get to the autistic side and it's like you're terrible at talking to people and you struggle with social means and you always feel isolated. And it's always been a struggle. And it really didn't get any easier when at 6 years old I lost my father. And then after that, the family household was very chaotic because my mom just went bonkers because she had bipolar, never took her medication, and she would always beat me and my twin brother like on a regular basis, physical, mental, verbal abuse, you name it. But then at 13 years old, there was one day it got so bad that my brother ran next door and called the cops on her. And then after that, we moved in with our neighbors who happened to be our cousins, and they're broke, they're poor, they're both struggling with their other divorces, and they still take us in. And to me, that always meant a lot. For them, when they have nothing, to sacrifice everything for my brother and I was one of the greatest things that could ever happen to me, especially with leading up to high school and whatnot, and me always feeling so isolated and having nothing to base myself around, only having like 1 or 2 friends, if even that. So having them behind me was great throughout high school.
Tell them what you're doing today.
What I'm doing today is I'm with Mr. Donaghy in the GO program, and I'm here to advocate for all the special education students who are all out there, who have no voice, who know no one, and to all the others who don't know them. And I'm here to present their story every single day at a time.
Let me wrap up with this. You stay with me. This is what I do. Not because Rob is different, because he's not different. Because we all struggle with acceptance. He's just as invisible as the rest of us. But what he does differently is when he's seen, he rises. Because you know what? He sees kids I don't see because he's had experiences I will never have. This kid is a warrior, he is a champion. Just like I want my son to be. And this is what we need to see with kids, because when we unleash them on the world, then we can make change. See, I keep on hearing that changing education is impossible. Well, I'm done with impossible. I'm done with it. Because to me, that is not a declaration, it is a dare. And my dare for all of us is to begin to see these kids who are in this room differently. When you walk, you saw them as kids and young. I see them as champions, kids these days. We should say that with pride now, because we should be investing in them so that they can lead in a way that they have never led before. And I'll tell you, I need you to see it. Selfishly, because my son is one of those kids. Rob needs you to see it because he needs champions beside him as well. If you're gonna be here and we're gonna talk about leadership, then lead. We need you to rise up and stop talking about what's different. Understand we all feel that we're invisible and we all want to be seen for who we are. This is the challenge that's up against us now. And then you can say it's impossible, like Nelson Mandela did. But he said it's only impossible it's done, and he knows more than us what it takes to get things done. So I truly believe in my heart that we can shift education. And I will throw stone after stone until we build that building. But I got 1,200 more people right now that I know who can see the cow. I'm just asking you to run with me because I don't just need it, but all these kids who are in here need it too. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you. Stay out here.
I want Aaron to stay out here, and let's bring a student back out as well. Get back out here. I've known Aaron for a while. Tremendous educator and leader in the Go Effect. Check them out, please. What they're doing in the greater Detroit area, actually around the world, tremendous. The reason why I want to keep them out here, because a true heroic leader has a growth mindset and engages empathy. And what I mean by that is, if you look at Aaron and Rob, you don't know who the mentor is. And if you're a true leader and you have a growth mindset, I'll give you a personal example. I had the privilege to work with a group of 20 teenage girls at the Boys and Girls Club last year, thanks to Dr. Kulkarni. And after 6 weeks, and Jason Roy was with me, and he's in the crowd somewhere, after 6 weeks, I walked away and I learned more from them girls than I even dreamed about they could learn from me. And I didn't expect that. But remember that. It doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter if you're an adult, if you're a youth. When you're working together, you have a growth mindset. You're learning from one another. And this is a prime example of what the Go Effect does, and they achieve the impossible. So thank you guys. Way to go. So